Hello everyone and welcome back to a short EP review, and in this video I'm going to review Pretty Boss by MITHCELL Feldstein. This is the newest release on cassette by the label Flag Day Recordings, a label of the abstract noise musician Guillermo Pizarro that I discovered a few months back with the release of the EP Ourselves Alone by Like Witch, which was an incredible and immaculately produced piece of two really well crafted noise and music concrete tracks with some great field recordings and a great dark atmosphere behind it. Up until this point I've been following the works from this label and I ended up getting into this one being really immersed by this gorgeous album cover. I really like this whole aesthetic, the way it was painted, the colors. It has a really weird but very nice feel and aesthetic to it. But instead of getting into a very abstract and noise release, this one is something completely different, and to my surprise this is a very special release that I'm really glad I got into. MITHCELL Feldstein is actually the drummer from the post-hardcore band Lungfish, and this really short EP is a collection of some of his poems being read and recorded by him with some music playing in the background. Like the release itself says, it's a collection of poems set to music, and that's basically pretty much what this thing is. This one, in terms of music, it's a highly experimental release with so many short songs that go to poetry and spoken word. You ever thought that the drummer of a post-hardcore band actually makes poems and that there is an album surrounding this entire concept? Well, look no further, because this is the album for you. This is a very short one, most of them go to a minute or even less, with the exception of the very last one going for 4 minutes, but the last track is mostly instrumental and it's the most different out of the entire bunch. And so let's get straight into the last track, which in my opinion is one of my favorite moments out of this entire thing. The song When She Told Him She Was in Love is a set of poems that goes about for a minute, and then the rest of the melody just drags up going for 4 minutes. This is the only song out of the track list which music was made by Will Good on 12-string and bass guitar, and also with the inclusion of LA Fritz. The rest of the tracks were composed, edited and manipulated by Matthew Dermond and Zen Kanevsky, which are two musicians that I haven't heard of before, but I think they've done a really solid work of portraying a very experimental soundscape with lots of different sounds going into lots of different moods. This is an EP that reminds me of some of the spoken word stuff from back in the days where I would listen to I'm New Here by Jill Scott Heron, which is an album that back in the day when I heard it, it was kind of intriguing for me, as I wouldn't have heard something that was so heavily related on spoken word and actually having the music mostly being served as a background rather than having the front role, just like sort of something to back up the poetry which had the leading role. And this is pretty much the same thing with this EP. And like I said, it goes to lots of different stuff. Like the first song has a really lo-fi and experimental rock feel to it, with lots of the melodies constantly looping and being a really good and well crafted song. Others being very glitchy and experimental, and just being in general weird. Something that also manages to capture the whole aesthetic with the whole poetry and the whole lyricism behind all of those poems, because they're weird poems. What MITHCELL presents is not something necessarily like edgy or something so obscure and abstract, but in terms of poetry, it's definitely something a bit weird, a bit more unique, addressing some issues of stuff that are reminiscent of personal life, love, relationships, interactions, etc., but made in its own way of portraying things, and in some cases the context might feel a bit strange. However, the thing that surrounds some of these songs is that I don't feel like they necessarily fit all that well together, like the music with a combination of the poetry or the context of the lyrics. In my opinion, there are some moments on this thing where it feels like there's just some background different sounds and stuff surrounding the poem that does not necessarily make that much of a sense. It just exists here for the context of just just having a musical background behind those poems. There's not necessarily a connection, and that has a result some of the tracks do not feel as fulfilling or that much captivating. And so some of the tracks feel like just existing for the sake of existing. Even though lots of them are relatively short, there are still moments that don't feel all that complete. There's not necessarily a bad moment in this entire project. In my opinion, the way it just flows out, you can just listen to it as an entire thing, just grabbing poetry with a musical background behind it, but you might feel that in some of those tracks there could be an attempt for something more intriguing, something more captivating, in terms of at least having something more memorable in terms of a musical pattern rather than just some random sounds and noises. But other than that, this is a really solid EP. Weird, obscure, unexpected, with some nice recordings, some nice elements of experimental, glitch, rock and spoken word. And this is definitely a release of Flag Day recordings that I highly recommend to you, just for having a sort of a different and unique experience. Because in my opinion, it's not that easy to find something as intriguing and as different as this. This is definitely one of the weirder and one of the most unique projects that you can find in 2019. I'm going to give this EP a 7 plus out of 10. What's your opinion on this EP? Like it, dislike it, why, and what do you want me to review next time? Let me know down in the comments. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe for more content like this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.